Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Arena. Today I am pleased to be hosting the Senator for the Republic of Kenya, elected by the people of Homa Bay. Karibu sana Honorable Senator Moses Kajwang.
Asante sana.
Karibu sana kwenye show.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure to have you in Uasin Gishu.
It is a pleasure to be talking to you.
Asante sana.
Yeah.
Who is Moses Kajwang?
I don't know whether I should go the official or the personal.
Start with the personal maybe.
Well, the personal, an Adventist father, husband, passionate about reading. I call myself a bibliophile. By profession, I'm an informatic. That means I'm a specialist in matters to do with information technology, information sciences, and the likes. But the formal side, I'm the senator representing the people of Homa Bay. I'm now doing my third term. What are my areas of passion? Public finance management and climate change. I lead the climate change caucus in the Senate. I also lead the Public Accounts Committee in the Senate.
What is your role as a Public Accounts Committee in the Senate?
My job is to make sure that the money that we send to county governments is put to good use. And it is a mandate that comes out of the Constitution, that the Senate has been given the responsibility to oversight national resources that are allocated to counties. Yes. And when doing so, we rely on the reports of the Auditor General, and we try to confirm two things: that public money has been used lawfully and effectively. Because money can be used lawfully, but not effectively. The guys in counties can give you all sorts of records, vouchers, procurement plans. Yes, that is lawful. But is it effective? Is it having an impact on the lives of people? And over the years, I think I've been trying to push for effectiveness, value for money, not just compliance. So my job, there are people who say kazi yangu ni kunyorosha governors. Sio kunyorosha as such, it's just to make sure that wamepunguza ukora, wamepunguza utapeli, na wamehakikisha kwamba tukiwapea pesa zinafika in the places that it's supposed to get.
What are the common things that you find in counties mkiendelea kugrill governors?
I think there is still a lot of bad manners in county governments. Now I'll give you an example. I've been in Uasin Gishu today. You have projects that are initiated not with the intention of benefiting the people, but benefiting people who do procurements and tenders in counties. So you find that projects are inflated, and because they are inflated, when a governor leaves office, the next governor does not want to see them through. They are inflated, some payments are made upfront. So procurement and project management is one of the biggest problem areas in county governments. We also have the traditional problem of wage bill. Some counties, all the money that comes to them, you'll find probably half of it goes to salaries. The question is, was devolution supposed to create jobs, or devolution was supposed to create an enabling environment for small, business people to thrive, so that there can be a multiplier effect? So the wage bill is still too much. The procurement problems, as I've said, poor management of projects. Then you end up with a number of stalled projects, what I would call white elephants. And of course, there's still an element of corruption. But I could say that over the last 10 years, cases of rampant corruption, there's that brazen corruption. In the earlier years, you'd find a county, they've withdrawn 70 million shillings in cash from a bank. In a country where you are not supposed to withdraw more than 1 million shillings, or after 1 million, it raises the flag of anti-money laundering issues. And you'd find counties having arrangements even with banks, commercial banks. The county treasurer goes to the bank and comes out with 70 million shillings
in cash.
We saw those things. We've seen those things in our audit reports. But over the years, I think there has been an improvement on those issues of brazen corruption, because the banks have also tightened things, and EACC is also, on the door, and Senate is also making noise. So the loss of funds that we are seeing is likely through very well calculated, very well covered procurement issues. But as I said earlier, the problem is we spend so much money, but is it changing the lives of our people? The effectiveness. So again, as you've asked, the common problems, many programs are designed by county governments that are not effective.
For example, Uasin Gishu. What
Yes.
kind of programs?
Uasin Gishu is a classic case. 64 Stadium. This is a county of champions.
Yes.
You would expect that when it comes to sporting facilities, that Uasin Gishu would be top-notch.
Yeah, 64 Stadium was launched by the former governor.
Yes, it was launched by the former governor, and the current governor, the CEO, has been in office for 2 years. He has a responsibility to complete it. And we told him today, William Ruto inherited CBC. He has to fix it.
Yes.
William Ruto inherited debt. He must fix it.
Come
William
on,
Ruto, Eurobond, SGR, all that. That is what a chief executive officer does. He takes responsibility once he's in office. So 64 Stadium is stuck. How much money has been spent on it? Close to 800 million. How much more do we need? 400 million. So you have 800 million locked up in a project that is not benefiting anybody. That is a white elephant. Go to Ziwa, level 5 hospital. 400 million has been spent.
Level 5
But-
zero.
But what is the value, what is the use of a hospital? A hospital is only effective if drugs can be dispensed, if injections can be obtained, if doctors and nurses are present. It's not just about the brick and mortar. Another white elephant. How much more do we need to complete Ziwa? Almost another 400 million. You go to the Jackson Mandago needs a special needs center. A very nice idea, which was going to cost 2.5 billion over a couple of years. But it is a function of the national government. It is not a function of the county government. 170 million has been committed. What is there to show? Practically nothing. So we've seen quite a number of what I would call white elephants, and we've advised the governor and the county assembly that they must make sure that they take urgent action to convert those projects into usable things. If you've spent 400 million on Ziwa Level 5, Makueni spent 150 million for a 200-bed capacity mother and child hospital. So we're asking, unless here in Uasin Gishu, people want first-class kind of hospitals as opposed to places like Makueni. We've seen the hospitals that were built by Nakuru during Lee Kinyanjui's time, and they spent a fraction of the money that has been used here. So we need to have discipline when it comes to project identification, project management, and project execution.
Okay, can you share a notable instance where your committee's oversight led to tangible improvement in the counties?
I think there are a number. Samburu. The governor of Samburu was charged. The matter was prosecuted successfully, and he was convicted. And that followed a visit that my committee made to Samburu in the last parliament. Marsabit, the governor appeared before my committee, and he was not able to explain how 8.4 billion had been utilized during that financial year. And after coming out of my committee meeting, the following week he was arrested by EACC, and statements were taken. So there have been those instances where you'd say blood has been spilled. But there are also many instances where there have been internal improvements. Out of the advice that we're giving to the governors, we are now seeing more counties are establishing audit committees, more counties are strengthening the internal audit function, more counties are getting better reports. In the earlier years, you used to have adverse opinion. You used to have disclaimers. Kisumu, Nairobi, for the first 8 years of devolution, they had the worst audit reports. But because of the constant engagement we are having with them, they've been improving their processes, and now they are in the qualified opinion domain. Another area where we have seen our work have an impact is on optimization of on-source revenue. Many years back, no one used to look at the on-source revenue reports. And then my committee started looking at a report called the Receive of Revenue Report. Now we are seeing counties are automating, and we are seeing counties are now tracking deliberately, almost on a daily basis, the growth of their on-source revenue. So those are some of the areas where I think we've had an impact.
Okay, pia umekuwa ukisupport sana mambo ya ugatuzi, lakini pia ukasuggest pia counties ipunguzwe. Kwa nini, ama unafikiria ikipunguzwa itakuwa na impact gani kwa kukata mambo ya corruption?
You see, ile idea ya kwanza ya devolution haikuwa counties 47. The initial idea ilikuwa ni what you'd call regional tiers.
Yes.
And there were 13 plus Nairobi. Sasa wewe nikuulize, kuna tofauti gani kiuchumi kati ya Kisii na Nyamira? Hakuna tofauti.
They are on the same.
Kuna tofauti gani kiuchumi kati ya Homa Bay na Migori? Hakuna tofauti.
Lakini angalia, nafikiria ikipunguzwa ama ikiwa ndogo ndio management inakuwa mzuri zaidi.
No, that was not a problem, because that idea meant at the regional level you'll do the big plans, and then at the county level you do the implementation. At the regional level is where you're doing the representation, you're doing the planning, you're doing the coordinated development, you're doing the budgeting, and then the county and wards would still remain as theaters of implementation. Now you have 47 governors, all of them flying flags. Uliwaona wakati walikuja hapa devolution conference. This town was shut down because kila gavana ako na magari mawili, kuna gari mbele, ingine nyuma, na kuna zingine ambazo zinabeba mawaziri. So governor anatembea na magari kama 10. Devolution was not supposed to create small lords in the villages. The money for devolution, most of it is supposed to go to hospitals. It's supposed to go to ECD. It's supposed to go to water. It's supposed to boost municipalities. So I still hold the view. And this one, najua akina Professor Nyong'o aliniambia hapana, sisi tuko tu sawa. I still hold the view that 47 counties as the apex of devolution is a bad idea. One day we must be bold enough to change the apex of devolution to the original 13. Counties hazitakufa, lakini tutoe hii maneno ingine, siji kila county mawaziri 10, kila county MCAs 60. We can have representation at a higher level. We can have coordination and planning at a higher level, but implementation, bado itabaki tu pale.
Okay, bado itabaki tu kwa counties. So you still hold your position on reducing the number of counties?
I still hold it. And do you know our devolution model? The closest equivalent is South Africa. South Africa has got provincial governments. Provincial governments still have counties, municipalities, and cities. And so you don't have 47 little kings, but you've got about 9 or so regional premiers. The Senate of South Africa has representation from those regions, because the Senate in South Africa is like the Kenyan Senate, which represents the interests of regional governments. So we need to look at what others are doing. Even Nigeria has got federal states, but those federal states still have some form of subsidiarity, smaller levels for service delivery. The United States of America is a federal state, but every state still has counties. Some states have boroughs. They've got small units for implementation. I think one of the problems they're having is that Kenya opinions are driven by the elites. And the elites are right now benefiting from devolution because they're the ones who are leading those units, making money out of it. So they will poison public opinion that anyone who wants to rearrange devolution is someone who wants to kill jobs. No. We have enough money in this country to take care of everybody, to buy drugs, to have ECD, to have water, to have clean cities, and to have agricultural inputs. That can only be done if we reduce our wasteful expenditure on bureaucracy.
Okay, as a chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, how do you balance between grilling the governors of the entire Republic of Kenya and holding your governor accountable for the job? How do you use it to your benefit, being the chairman of the committee?
When I sit as a chair of the committee, I know that I cannot personalize and I cannot politicize and I cannot individualize my role. I am guided by the Constitution, the Public Finance Management Act, the Public Audit Act, the Public Procurement Act, the County Governments Act. That's my Bible for my job. So whether you are a member of my party, a member of my coalition, at the end of the day you must demonstrate that you have used public resources lawfully and effectively. There is no party position on that. There is no party that condones theft. There is no party that condones wasteful expenditure. And so I have not had any crisis of confidence that maybe sometimes my governor might appear, governors from my formation, people like James Orengo would appear, and then I would get compromised. Because I believe that if the reference point are those statutes and the Constitution, then one can do that job without being biased in any political or personal manner.
Okay. As a close ally of the former Prime Minister, Honorable Raila Odinga, how do you navigate the dynamics of the audience participation in the broad-based government while still maintaining your identity as an ODM member?
Yeah, we must make things clear that there are ODM members who have joined government, but ODM has not joined government. What ODM has with the ruling party is a memorandum of understanding.
Okay.
And you see, in politics, what binds political parties are coalition agreements that are supposed to be registered with the registrar of political parties. We do not have a coalition agreement pre-election or post-election. What we have is an MOU. My party leader Raila Amolo Odinga has always told us that number one thing you must do is to look out for the interests of the people you represent. So if talking to government can ensure that certain development projects are prioritized, go and talk to government, because we all pay taxes.
Yes.
We are all citizens of this country, and we all deserve and demand for service. We all demand for development. So it's been very clear on that. Number two, he has told us he is not a leader of a gang of sycophants. Raila Odinga has never been a sycophant in his life. He has always spoken truth to power. And he has told us, not just the young leaders, but all of us, that there is some sycophancy of baba na mama ile ambayo iliisha na siku za Nyayo, hataki kuona. Kama kuna shida, tunasema kuna shida. Kama kuna shida CBC, tunazungumzia. Kama kuna shida SHA, tunazungumzia. University funding model, tunazungumzia. Kama kuna shida ya kazi, kama kuna ufisadi in recruitment of police, it is our duty as legislators to speak about it. So for now, we are, through this MOU and through some of our former members who are in government, we will support government initiatives that we believe are pro-people. But where there are initiatives that are anti-people, like abductions, Raila was the first one to speak out about abductions. Where there are anti-people policies like undermining of devolution, remember Raila spoke very strongly on devolution and the fact that National Assembly lazima wachilie pesa ziende kwa county. So we are not speaking from both sides of the mouth. We are very consistent that for pro-people policies, pro-people ideas, we will support the William Ruto administration. But when they veer off and venture into terrain that is against the spirit and letter of the Constitution, we shall hold them accountable. And when it comes to 2027, the ODM as a party, the core business of a political party is acquire power, retain power. Those are the two things. And through acquisition and retention of power, you can change the lives of people and you can build a better society. And so ODM is still committed to that.
Talking of 2027, juzi niliona ulisema come 2027 mtakuwa na candidate wenu wa ODM that will be vying for president. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, 2027 ODM will have candidates kutoka chini ward. Tutakuwa na candidate MP, tutakuwa na candidate governors, senators, na hata for the presidency we are going to have a candidate. Now there could be coalition agreements that are done before an election or that are done after the election, pre-election coalition or post-election coalition. All those are opportunities that are available to us in law. But as things stand, the only reason why William would pick the phone and call Raila, of course they've got some personal respect over the years, but Raila has the numbers. He has the numbers in parliament. He has the numbers in the Council of Governors. He has the numbers in the County Assemblies Forum. He's a man who controls a formidable political machine. And that political machine, you cannot just fold it up and say that now, sisi tunaingia mrengo moja.
Yeah, sisi tulikuwa tunamtazamo, tulifikiria sasa kwa sababu ya broad-based government, mtakuwa na one leader as a broad-based government.
Of course, there'll only be one president in 2027.
Yes.
There will only be one president. And let me put it this way. If that president is not Raila, then it will be the person that Raila will support.
Oh, okay. Sawa. Now you have been ranked among the best performing senators in Kenya. What achievements can you say, I have done this, nimefanya notable achievements as a senator?
No, I think it all stems from our mandate in the Constitution, which is legislation, representation, and oversight. Legislation, I've been a very robust debater and sponsor of bills in the Senate. I sponsored the County Boundaries Bill, which will sort out some of the conflicts you're seeing in county boundaries. You've seen sometimes Nandi, Kisumu, people are fighting over county boundaries. Sometimes Elgeyo Marakwet, Uasin Gishu are fighting over resources that cut across the two counties. So the County Boundaries Bill, I was a sponsor. It is before the National Assembly, and I hope that it will pass because it was one of the NADCO priority bills. There are other bills I've sponsored, amendments to the Public Finance Management Act, amendments to the County Governments Act, and amendments to the Basic Education Act. So legislatively, I've got a record. In terms of oversight, I think my job as a chair of the Public Accounts Committee has helped to create visibility and has also helped to foment a little bit of change in financial processes across counties. Actually, one of the things that we did was when it came to financial accountability, we brought in the ISPAC, Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya. And we said, accountancy is a regulated profession. Accountants are employed by county governments. They are involved in graft and they're involved in bad habits. Next time we catch an accountant who's involved in shenanigans, we are reporting them to ISPAC. And ISPAC, you must take action, deregister them so that they are unfit to hold office in any other county. And that shook up the accountants. In fact, many of them said, okay, in the past we were a bit relaxed because there were no consequences. But please, Mr. Chair, give us just 1 year or 2 years for us to put our act together, and you'll never see cases of accountants being reported. So I think those are some of the things that we've been doing, perhaps, that have led to our good rankings or ratings, but also in terms of representation. Some of us, as I've told you, that Raila Odinga does not lead a pack of a herd of sheep. He leads a pride of lions, and we must speak out when things are out of order.
Okay. Pia as a security concern, wacha nikuulize, kwa sababu juzi tuliona umeongelea mambo ya mheshimiwa ambaye aliuliwa, Honorable Were.
Yes.
What do you think the government should do as far as security is concerned? How to improve them and to make sure the members of parliament are safe?
It is not just about the members of parliament. It's a general concern across the entire society. We cannot be a society that normalizes assassinations in broad daylight. You know, tayari tumenormalize ngeta.
Yes.
Kuna mtaa zingine ukitembea kupigwa ngeta ni kitu ya kawaida. Kuibiwa simu ni kitu ya kawaida. Kuvunjiwa mlango ni kitu ya kawaida. We can't be that kind of society that normalizes those kind of things. There are places you go to, countries, you go to Dubai. That thing is unheard of. You go to Rwanda, of course, vitongoji uko ndani, such things can happen, but it is not normalized. So our security infrastructure and our security systems must move from the colonial analog days to a much more modern era that is underpinned by artificial intelligence and technology. Hii story ya tijiwochi amebeba rungu kwa bank, itamsaidiaje? You go to Dubai, unaenda kwa bank, hakuna uchi hata moja. You go to a hotel, upati in Kenyan hotels unapata a lot of idlers, unapata a lot of idlers wanasema they are providing security. In those countries they're using CCTV, they're using innovations, IT, they're using AI to be able to match your profile. Sasa hata ukitafutwa, they just scan those CCTV, there's a central control, utapatikana. Hii yetu ati polisi amekaa pale na AK47 kwa bank. Polisi
anategemea ngumi.
Cheki, kila ATM huwa na polisi wawili. Si kila ATM huwa na polisi wawili. Kila bank huwa na polisi wachache ni wawili. Kila cash in transit huwa na polisi wawili wako na bunduki. Sasa itakuwa polisi kazi yao ni kuchunga ATM na bank na cash in transit ama kuchunga wananchi. Alafu kila MP ako na polisi wawili. Kila nyumba ya cabinet secretary kuna polisi 4. We are misusing our security services.
Imekuwa na issue mingi sana kwa sababu other people are suggesting maybe security officers should be added to the members of parliament.
Haitasaidia. writer's idea. Let's fix the root cause of the problem. What drives people into some of these violent acts? Poverty, unemployment, and economic setup that is rigged against people from poor and needy backgrounds. We built a system where kama babako afanyi kazi county, huwezi pata kazi county.
Yes.
Kama anko wako hayuko KRA, huwezi pata kazi KRA.
Yes.
You know, there's
also tumekuwa na issue ya vijana wengi wamekuwa kilalamika. Wanasema when they apply for a job wanaambiwa they need to have experience maybe around 5 years. Sasa hawa lini ndio watapata mambo ya ajira? Kama sasa nikiapply kazi kama mimi niambiwe lazima niwe na experience ya 5 years. Hiyo 5 years nitapata vipi kama sitapewa hiyo ya kwanza?
And then it does not look at the experience you have had while tamaking.
Yes.
Because you might not
in school, the experience you get.
Checky, you might not have been working formally, but you're hustling somewhere where you are getting much more practical experience than that guy who goes to office Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, doing the same thing over and over again. I think we must change our perceptions around this. But you see, ultimately, we must design a curriculum that encourages and trains people not just to be consumers of education and then we go and look for jobs, but that will promote more of entrepreneurship. There are certain countries that have managed to do that. Israel is called a startup nation for a good reason. They've got a curriculum and an education system that fosters innovation. India is also doing it in a small way, even though India is a huge country. But we are, increasingly seeing Indian graduates now running the big tech companies and also doing a lot of things on the online space. So we must build a society, a curriculum where we are not training children so that they can go and sit in offices and do jobs. You see something like agriculture. And let me not go for fishing. A lot of young people in my area, they don't want to go to the lake. Wanasema uvuvi ni kazi ya wazee na kazi ambazo watu ambao hawajasoma. But there's an American company in my home area called Victory Farms that is doing cages in the lake and doing scientific breeding of fish in the lake, making billions of shillings every other year. So what we must do, if your father was a fisherman doing hunting and gathering ile ya kitambo, enda usome ufundi wa kisasa, then you go back to that lake. If your father was a cattle keeper, keeping these African zebus that look like small calves, enda usome ufundi, then you can upgrade that. If your father was a farmer using small ox plows, you can go back to that farm and do something. That's the kind of thinking that we need to encourage, that talking it's not all about white collar.
Now that tuko kwa county ya wakulima, as a chairman of the climate change committee,
yes,
what are you doing about kufunza hawa wakulima? Kwa sababu they don't get a prior information on the predictions ya mambo ya climate. Sasa unapata mtu anabahatisha tu. Kupanda ni kubahatisha, kuvuna ni kubahatisha, kupalilia pia ni kubahatisha, hatujui mvua itaenda lini. So tuko tu.
Yes.
What are you doing about it?
There is one thing that the UN Secretary General has been pushing for, early warning systems for all. Because we believe that some of these climate-induced disasters, if you have early warning systems or investments in early warning systems or access to early warning systems, you can tell in advance that there's going to be a cyclone, there's going to be a tornado, there's going to be a hurricane, there's going to be drought and famine in a certain period. So one of the things we are trying to push for at the national policy and legislative level is to boost the capacity of entities like Kenya Met and the disaster response entities to have early warning systems. Just the other day we passed the disaster management bill. It's I think it could be going for presidential assent in the next couple of weeks because it has been passed by both houses. So number one, early warning systems. Number two, we must be aware that because of global bad manners, China, the US, etc., because Africa is a very small contributor to global pollution and therefore global warming. But it might get to a day if the global temperatures exceed the 1.5 degrees or if they rise by 2 degrees, we will have a disaster. Do you know why we have good maize and good agricultural products doing well in places like Uasin Gishu? Because it's optimal temperature, optimal weather, the soil is good. Now, researchers say that if you have a 2-degree rise or 2-degree change in global temperatures, areas that were growing tea might not be able to grow tea. Areas that were growing Arabica coffee might no longer be able to grow Arabica coffee. And areas like Uasin Gishu might no longer be able to do the excellent maize and wheat and the other things that we are doing. So this thing is huge. So as a chair of the Climate Change Committee, we have been seeing how the rollout of initiatives like FLOCA, financing locally led climate change action, has been going. And over the last 2-3 years, the Senate has approved billions of shillings to come to county governments so that climate change activities, the mitigation, adaptation measures can be driven by county governments rather than at the national level. But there's much more work to be done at the global level. At the global level, I've been attending the conferences of parties. Last year, we were in Baku in Azerbaijan, and we were some of the strong advocates for a new model of financing. We call it the new collective quantifiable goal on climate finance, where we are telling the global polluters we need $1.3 trillion US. It is unfortunate that Donald Trump is back in office. He does not believe in the climate crisis, but thank God he's there for only 4 years. I hope that Americans will get someone who will agree with the rest of humanity that the things we are doing are dangerous. But 2-degree rise, 3-degree rise, the things that we are used to seeing growing here, they might no longer grow here. And actually, final points, I was reading an article saying that there are parts of England where now it's possible to grow tea and coffee because of climate change. Yes. So it's a serious thing that it could affect the beauty. Uasin Gishu is like the Garden of Eden, because anything you put in the soil grows. But with a 2-degree rise in global temperature, that might change.
Tukimalizia, unaweza ambia nini vijana wenye wanawatch show?
No, I want to encourage vijana. Kwanza, whatever the young people have done to this country in the last year during the finance bill, that was one of the most important revolutions. In fact, I would say after the 2010 constitution, last year was one of the most momentous moments in the history of our nation, because you have forced the bosses to listen. You have forced the politicians to listen. You have forced the politicians to take you seriously. I can see now John Buddy, when he's doing his budget, he's walking around. Anaongea na vijana. Anaongea na vijana. And he's so careful. He's so careful. He does not want to add taxes. I just want to encourage young people that this country belongs to you. And those of us who are in leadership right now, we must deliver it to you, bequeath to you a country that is fit for you and your children. And to date, there is no difference between a Gen Z from Uasin Gishu and a Gen Z from Kilifi. Perhaps it's just the names that differ, but the level of intelligence, the level of exposure, and the level of aspiration, everyone wants a good life. And so if we come together, I just want to ask young people, tafadhali mchukue vitambulisho, tafadhali mchukue voters cards. You don't have to be a politician going to public rallies, but that one vote that you're going to cast in the next election will determine whether Kenya becomes Singapore or Kenya becomes South Sudan. Yeah.
Asante sana, Senator, for coming.
Shukran.
Nashukuru sana, kazi nzuri.
You guys keep it up, and I wish you all the best. This is the future.
Thank you.
Asante.
Yes, asanteni sana to our viewers. That has been the Senator for the Republic of Kenya, elected by the people of Homa Bay.